Chyna shattered expectations and completely redefined women's wrestling in the late 1990s. But after she was shut out by WWE, Joanie Laurer's life took a very different direction away from the ring, marked by fame, addiction, and deep isolation. Today, we're looking at the tragic story of Chyna's life after WWE.
Through the arena, I saw her and I went, holy cow. That's probably the most impressive girl I've ever seen.
Joanie Laurer made her WWF debut in 1997 as the intimidating enforcer of D-Generation X. But her ambition went beyond being muscle at ringside. She wanted to compete between the ropes, and she wanted to wrestle men. At first, Vince McMahon strongly opposed the idea. However, after the two began training together, Vince was stunned by Joanie's raw strength and athleticism. She could lift more than most of the men on the roster, and that changed his mind. Soon, he began booking her against male competitors. 1999 became the defining year of Chyna's career. Her popularity exploded. She became the first woman to ever enter the Royal Rumble and the only woman in history to win the Intercontinental Championship. For the first time in WWF history, a woman was portrayed as an equal to the men, not a novelty act. Mainstream media took notice. Chyna appeared on magazine covers, talk shows, sitcoms, and quickly became a symbol of empowerment for women everywhere. In just a few short years, she crossed over into pop culture and became a celebrity in her own right. With that momentum, Chyna set her sights even higher. She wanted to become the first ever female WWF champion. In 2000, Playboy magazine approached her with an offer to pose nude. This is where Vince McMahon stepped in. He warned her directly that if she went through with the shoot, she would never hold the WWF championship. It was an impossible decision. That single Playboy deal promised more money than she had earned throughout her entire wrestling career combined.
She did the Playboy thing. When I did my Playboy, I made more money doing one Playboy than I had in 5 years cumulatively of working for the company.
Joanie ultimately accepted the offer, a choice that would become the biggest mistake of her career. Vince was livid almost immediately. Her matches against men were stopped, and she was pushed into the Divas division. It was a terrible fit. Chyna was simply too large and powerful to have believable matches with the other women.
6 years I had wrestled men, and then all of a sudden I wasn't supposed to fight the guys anymore, and I was supposed to be this women's champion, and who was I going to fight?
But isn't it possible that the public does not want to see men losing to women?
Yeah, but there was nobody there at that point that didn't want to wrestle me. How was I going to step backwards and wrestle women that didn't have the experience from the guys that I was wrestling every day?
They're taking this woman, 5'9", muscular, and turning her into a diva. Although they couldn't chisel her down into a 5'5", size 2, they did the best they could to make her a diva.
Tension between her and Vince reached a breaking point. They went from training together regularly to barely speaking. Around the same time, her contract was nearing renegotiation and her leverage was already gone. She made things worse by demanding a guaranteed $1 million salary, money usually reserved for top stars like Steve Austin.
Well, we decided not to renew her contract. Her deal to me was, Chyna is as valuable to WWE as Stone Cold Steve Austin is.
Because I did feel that I was top talent there, and I was included in every other aspect as far as top talent was concerned, except for financially.
She wanted to be cut loose, or she wouldn't have demanded $1 million a year.
But the final blow to her WWF career came from her personal life. Chyna had once been deeply involved with Triple H, but their relationship ended painfully when he began dating Stephanie McMahon, Vince's daughter.
Love, you can't stop love. But I was like, how then do I deal with the emotional side of this happening and keeping my job and like moving forward?
With everything collapsing at once, Joanie was released from WWF in late 2001. It felt like the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. Before WWE, Joanie had drifted through life without direction. She was estranged from her mother and had lost contact with her sister. WWF gave her something she had never had before, a family, a sense of purpose, and belonging. She even viewed Vince McMahon as the father figure she'd always lacked. When that was taken away, it left an enormous void. Realizing she needed to act fast to survive financially, Joanie tried to capitalize on her fame outside wrestling. She enjoyed her brief TV appearances in the past, so she moved to California with hopes of becoming an actress. But opportunities were scarce. She landed only minor walk-on roles, and interest in her quickly faded once she was no longer a WWF star. Panic set in, and Joanie began drinking heavily to manage her anxiety. That's when Sean Waltman, known to fans as X-Pac, entered her life again. Recently released from WWE himself due to substance issues, the two began a relationship that quickly spiraled into heavy alcohol and drug abuse.
The two had kind of meshed. But I think at the same time, those two weren't good for each other.
It happened so quick. That's when I started noticing like a lot of the drugs and like a lot of the crazy stuff, thinking like, oh my gosh, here we go again. Now I'm getting into another situation. How do I deal with this?
I just started dabbling and using crystal meth at the time. I was hiding my drug use from her, and I didn't realize at the time that she was hiding hers from me as well.
In 2002, Joanie was offered a chance with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Both she and Sean relocated to Tokyo. NJPW President Antonio Inoki promised her matches against men, something she desperately wanted. Her Japanese run was building toward a massive main event against Hiroyoshi Tenzan at the Tokyo Dome. It looked like the start of a major comeback, but her substance problems followed her overseas and intensified. Joanie began missing shows and appearances, and Inoki realized she was becoming a liability. To avoid scandal, he released her. Back in the U.S., Joanie and Sean fell into crystal meth addiction. Desperate for money, they released a homemade adult film titled One Night in Chyna, which reportedly earned her $100,000. She later claimed she was cheated out of her share, but regardless, the damage was done. The negative publicity far outweighed any financial benefit, further damaging her reputation and destroying any realistic chance of a WWE return.
Of course, I was like sucked right into that whole thing, and you know, next thing you know, he's rolling up in Hummers and like making all this money, and it was awful. It was an awful experience, and again, it was one of those things. Again, still, I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to say, "Oh yeah, hey," and then it would go away, or get into it. But I call it the rape tape. It was a horrible experience. And, I was able to...
Not long after, Joanie was arrested for physically assaulting Sean, ending their relationship. Around this time, her sister Kathy reconnected, deeply worried about her condition. In interviews, Kathy later said Joanie was in complete denial about her addiction and refused help. A massive argument followed, and Joanie stormed out. The sisters never saw each other again.
Are you now into alcohol big time? Are you having a problem with it?
No.
You're not having a problem.
I want to party and I don't want to be the designated driver.
Running out of options, Joanie appeared on multiple reality TV shows, often humiliating herself by showing up intoxicated. This was also when she legally changed her name to Chyna, so she could use it professionally, since WWE still owned the trademark. Many believe she hit rock bottom when she appeared on Celebrity Rehab. Dr. Drew Pinsky later revealed that Chyna suffered from deep, unresolved trauma. Her behavior and personality shifted drastically depending on her environment, leading him to suspect undiagnosed mental health conditions. Despite multiple attempts to help her, she resisted treatment and never fully committed to recovery. Dr. Drew described her as complicated but kind, and someone who deserved far better support than she received. In 2011, Chyna made a brief return to wrestling with TNA, teaming with Kurt Angle against Jeff and Karen Jarrett. She forced Karen to tap out, reminding fans of her star power. Contract talks followed, but TNA abruptly ended negotiations after learning she had signed with an adult film studio. The final blow was a WWE parody film that featured adult actors portraying Triple H, Vince McMahon, and Stephanie McMahon.
I guess she just said, oh well, screw it, let's go ahead and do porn and make money.
I don't care if you're a porn fan, you're a wrestling fan, you're a reality fan, you're gonna love this movie.
She's trying to get work. A company comes along, an adult film company, treats her with respect, puts her high up on a pedestal, gives her money. I understand that.
In 2013, Chyna returned to Japan hoping for a fresh start. She worked as an English teacher, but relocating didn't fix her problems. Her mental health continued to decline, leading to multiple arrests for disorderly conduct. She documented her loneliness on YouTube, openly expressing how isolated she felt. Eventually, she returned to the US and agreed to participate in a documentary titled The Reconstruction of Chyna. It appeared to be a turning point. She reconnected with fans, attended signings, and was genuinely shocked by how many people still admired her. In August 2015, at Roddy Piper's funeral, Chyna saw Triple H for the first time in years. They reportedly embraced and spoke privately, reconnecting after decades of silence. She also re-established contact with her mother, exchanging emails and planning to reunite. But just before they could meet, Chyna relapsed and sent an angry email that severed the relationship once again. Despite visible progress, her demons remained. Her social media posts became increasingly erratic until they suddenly stopped altogether. When her manager checked on her apartment, he found her dead.
Chyna, whose real name was Joanie Laurer, was found dead Wednesday in Redondo Beach, California. Authorities say there is no sign of foul play. She became one of the best known and most popular female professional wrestlers in history.
On her nightstand were bottles of Valium and Ambien. Authorities believe her death was an accidental overdose, not suicide. Chyna forever changed women's wrestling. Her power, presence, and fearlessness opened doors for future generations, even if she never lived to fully see her influence. 3 years after her passing, WWE inducted her into the Hall of Fame as part of D-Generation X, but for Joanie Laurer, it came far too late. Wrestling was the only place she ever truly felt accepted, only for that family to turn away when she needed it most.